están prendidos por todos.
DVD.
All right. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you coming and getting this story out there. So I just will briefly address you with some prepared statements, and then I'll turn the time over to Ximena because I know you'd rather talk to her than you would to me anytime. So just to start off, we've received a lot of requests from the community to comment on the resignation of the police officer who had originally arrested and detained Ximena. We first want to make it very clear that we support and respect our law enforcement. We think that the majority of them do a great job, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't look into this incident a little bit more. There's too many things that don't make sense about Ximena's arrest to just let it go. So to that end, with his resignation and some other information that we received, we've done an open records request. We hope to get more information out of the city of Dalton moving forward to see if there's a possibility that Ximena may be able to take advantage of something called a U visa based on what happened to her. But the bottom line is she should never have been arrested and she should never have been taken to Stewart. She should never have been put in this situation, and because she was, we have to now figure out what happened, why it happened, and make sure it doesn't happen to other people going forward. So another thing that I wanted to do is address the false narrative that's being put out there by DHS and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are saying that Ximena and Jose and their family, they've been here for 15 years and they didn't bother to do anything to try and adjust their status, to try and get a visa or work permit or anything else, and because of that, they might as well be deported now. So this is false because there was nothing that Jose and Ximena could have done before now to get any type of lawful status. They tried. They met with attorneys. They reviewed their case, their options, whether it be through Jose's business, through the fact that he has U.S. citizen children. There was nothing that they could do to come out of the shadows and become official members of this country that they love. It just wasn't a possibility. And to give you another example of how broken our immigration system is and how much we need change, only now that immigration is trying to deport Jose and Ximena can they apply for work authorization. There was no way for them to do that before. But now, as defense to deportation, they can actually take steps to becoming permanent residents and getting work permit in the United States. But that's just an example of how things need to change, why we need immigration reform, and why we need permanent protection for dreamers. So President Trump has said in his first administration and in the second administration that he has something that he wants to do for all these dreamers. Well, Ximena is a dreamer. She doesn't have DACA because there's some arbitrary dates that she missed as far as arriving in the United States, but she was brought here at the age of 4, and she's been a person that's contributed to the community since day one. She's been a person who's loved in the community, her and her whole family, because of how they act, how they treat other people, how selfless they are, and how all they want to do is better the community and their families and themselves. Finally, I just wanted to clarify another thing that, again, something that's thrown out there by this administration, and that is that Jose and Ximena are not criminals. They have broken no criminal laws in the United States. They should not be treated or talked about as if they were criminals. They're people who have a deep respect for the laws of this country and would do anything to be members of the society. And with that, I'll turn the time over first to my partner, Charles Cook, and then we'll hear from Ximena.
First, I want to thank Dustin for his amazing work on this case. He's just does a remarkable job with Ximena, and I want to thank her for her extraordinary courage. It takes a great deal of courage to do what she has done here. We went through the same thing 15 years ago with Jessica Colonel, for those of you that were around back then. Jessica works for us. She's upstairs. I know she came down there. She's right in the back of the room right there. That's what a hero looks like. This is what a hero looks like. Here's what I'd like to address. Why are we putting people like Ximena and Jose in our prisons? Why are we holding them there? These jails are designed by every administration, not the Trump administration, to force people to give up their rights in the United States, to just give up and go home. That's why they're detaining people who aren't threats to society, that are night flight risks. It's why Ximena got a very low bond, and Jose got a very low bond, because they're not flight risks. They're not going anywhere. They will show up when they're asked to show up. It's time for us as U.S. citizens to ask our government, particularly our congressmen and our senators, to fix this system. This is not just. We're here today because we saw things that were unjust, that hit our souls because they were so unjust. If they're that unjust, why aren't our senators and congressmen, Senators Warnock and others, Senator Ossoff, Marjorie Taylor Greene, why aren't they fixing the system? Perhaps because they all benefit from not fixing the system. And we as citizens have to stand up and demand that they fix it so families like Ximena's do not have to keep going through this horror again. And I want to turn time over to Ximena for her comments and for your questions. Just remember what she's been through, this horror, and her courage. Thank you, Ximena.
Hola.
You can say something if you like.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for everybody coming out, and I know everything that I'm going through is something that's very unjust, and it's not only my case, but millions of people are going through this in the United States. And Stewart, I met a lot of people that are going through tougher situations than me, and I think they deserve justice because they are not criminals like Dustin and his partner also mentioned. A lot of us are being treated as criminals, and Stewart, we're treated like we're the worst criminals ever, but we are not criminals. That place is made for us to be detained as we fix our legal status in the United States. Instead, we're treated like criminals, and they just pressure us into signing deportation or self-departure because they pressure us, and we don't get any information on our case unless you have an attorney.
Ximena, what was your reaction to the officer's resignation?
I think he needed to do what he needed to do. He knows why he did it, and I think, as from my standpoint, I don't hold a grudge against him. As a Christian, I think the Bible says, forgive those who wrong you, and I forgive him, and there's nothing that I hold against him. I think the government needs to do what they need to do on his part and do what they need to do on my part, and that's how it has to be.
Have you spoken with him?
I have not.
Ximena, with Ultra Entertainment with Channel 2, can you talk a little bit about your immigration journey? What are you looking forward to? Your attorney mentioned the U visa. Another option is going through your immigration with your father. What do you hope for? When do you hope to finally become a U.S. citizen? What are your hopes as you look towards your immigration journey?
As I look into my immigration journey, I look forward to possibly getting the U visa. I think that would be the best case, not only for me, but for my family as well. And if that's not a possibility, whatever happens with my dad will happen to me. But right now, I'm praying that the U visa is the best option.
How would you feel when you become a U.S. citizen?
Free, no worry. I'll feel like there's a weight lifted off my shoulder, not having to live in fear anymore.
Ximena, para Univisión, me gustaría que nos explicaran, nos dieran un update de cómo está la situación legal en español para ti, cuál es tu proceso legal y qué piensas sobre la renuncia del policía que te arrestó.
Para mi proceso legal estoy esperando que pueda obtener la visa U. Eso no nada más me ayudaría a mí, pero ayudaría también a toda mi familia. Entonces eso es lo que yo estoy esperando y orando, que pueda obtener esa visa. Y lo del policía, yo creo que él tuvo que hacer lo que él tenía que hacer, y lo que pase de aquí es con el gobierno y con él, y lo mío también.
Claro, me gustaría que tus abogados en español nos dieran una explicación de cómo está tu situación legal, si nos permiten, abogados Dustin, en qué situación se encuentra el caso de Ximena, van a aplicar ¿cuáles son las opciones que tienen?
Sí, ahorita su caso está en pausa. Ella no va a tener audiencia lo más seguro hasta el año que viene, tal vez el 2027. Estamos viendo ahorita, haciendo la investigación en cuanto a lo que pasó con su arresto para ver si califica para una visa U. Pero también tenemos otras opciones como unir el caso de ella con el caso de su papá, quien va a estar aplicando para la cancelación de deportación. Y si él ganara su caso, sale siendo residente permanente, y ella también se une a este caso para tratar de sacar la residencia. Y el último recurso sería asilo político, pero eso es muy difícil y no queremos tener que basarnos en eso, pero si esa es la única opción, eso es lo que nos espera.
Concretamente la visa U porque fue víctima de un arresto injustificado.
Así es, estamos investigando. Ahorita tenemos algunas informaciones que nos hace pensar que tal vez ella fue objeto de un arresto que no fue justo. No tenemos respuesta final en cuanto a si ese es el caso, pero si eso fue el caso, entonces sí, tenemos que hablar con la ciudad de Dalton para ver si ellos nos ayudan a aplicar por eso. Y el hecho de que el policía ya resignó nos hace pensar que ya ha habido esas conversaciones entre el gobierno y él.
Esa era una de mis preguntas. ¿Usted cree que la renuncia del policía ayude en la situación del caso legal que va a enfrentar Ximena?
Ayuda, no necesariamente ayuda, pero nos da otro detalle que tenemos que darle seguimiento para ver qué es lo que quiere decir eso. Puede ser que eso ayuda a otros hispanos en ese condado, pero realmente, como dijo Ximena, no tenemos, o sea, no deseamos mal para ese policía. Puede ser que él hizo algo incorrecto, honestamente, pero como abogados no estaríamos haciendo nuestro trabajo si le tomamos a su palabra y decimos que sí, fue justo.
Abogado, gracias a los reportajes que vieron en Stuart de Ximena y la foto del policía, se dieron a conocer que otros migrantes también se estaban quejando que él los arrestó. ¿Los han contactado a ustedes o tienen conocimiento de eso?
Tenemos un poco de conocimiento en cuanto a eso. Estamos hablando con gente en la comunidad, sacando diario más detalles. Ya hicimos una pedida de récord de registros a la ciudad y ya nos contestaron diciendo que están juntando eso. Me imagino que nos van a querer cobrar un montón de dinero para darnos copia de todo, pero tenemos que hacer lo que tenemos que hacer para que haya justicia en este caso.
La forma en que Ximena fue detenida, aprehendida, arrestada y esposada, vemos imágenes de un oficial sumamente alto, tú pequeña de estatura. ¿Te sentiste vulnerable y expuesta ante la fuerza de un policía de esa forma?
Sí, no nada más por su forma que es más alto, pero su modo de hablar. Así no fue profesional en cómo hablar conmigo, y yo creo como un policía debería de hablar a alguien profesionalmente.
Ximena, can you talk to me a little bit about that in English as well? Talk to me a little bit about how you felt.
Yes.
Why you faced that and why you were being arrested by ICE.
I just felt as if I was being kind of pressured. Also, I felt like he was very unprofessional with his words. I also felt like he was just very unprofessional with how he treated me.
What has this process been like for you and your family since you got home up until today? Because I know obviously you've been waiting for you to get home and for you to be able to spend some time with them. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it kind of flips your world. We now kind of live a little bit more in fear. Before we lived in fear, now a lot more, because it's making people feel a little bit more entitled. With everything going on in the government, people just feel like their feelings can be poured out, and because of that, we feel as if we're more like targets in our community, and we're scared to go out, and we don't feel as comfortable as we used to before.
Is there a message that you would say to people in the community that might find themselves in a similar situation to you?
Yeah, I would tell them to be very careful, to know their rights, and just be extremely careful right now with how everything is.
Ximena, can you talk a little bit about the people inside the detention center, right? So your story made national headlines, and you're the face of this, but there are so many people, like you know, obviously, who are not getting this kind of attention.
Yeah.
Tell me about the people you met in the detention center and your hopes for them.
My hope is that they get justice. There's a lot of very sad cases in there. Mine's just a speck of what you see, and that's the sad truth. There's horror stories in there, things people wouldn't even imagine, and I just pray for a better system and a better America that can allow people to get legal status without having to go through the trauma they're going through in there.
Mr. Baxter or Mr. Cook, do we have an idea of like how Ximena and her father's case is different in the way that a lot of people do get detained and immediately deported, whereas they did get some sort of path or are kind of in the process of doing?
You know, that's a very interesting question. Their case in many ways is not different. The vast majority of cases are like this. People who are picked up for driving without a license. And this is not new under Trump, just so you know. This has been happening since Bill Clinton was around because of a law passed in 1996. So their case is pretty typical of most people. The folks that you see being deported right away typically have deportation orders, generally speaking, or they have criminal convictions that make them immediately deportable, or They've been here less than 2 years. Ximena and her dad are like 10 million other people that have been here for decades in the United States, that have long established ties to the community, that have rights to bond, that have rights to apply for relief only in removal proceedings. So in many ways, they're very typical of the folks that are being picked up by ICE right now.
Justin, you spoke a little bit earlier in Spanish, and maybe you can answer this as well, but can you walk us through a little bit about why try to seek the U visa? Is it because of the way that she was detained in that moment? Can you talk to us about what that process looks like right now? Where could her case end up being heard, that type of thing, like a timeline?
Sure,
Or
yeah.
how her dad's case, how that
As well.
Okay, yeah.
exactly.
So her case is a little bit different from her dad's, and then I'll answer the U visa question. So her dad has U.S. citizen children. So because he's been here for more than 10 years, because he has U.S. citizen children who would suffer if he was deported, he's able to apply for something called cancellation of removal. Ximena is way too young to get married and has no kids, so she needs a parent who's a U.S. citizen or permanent resident so that she can qualify for cancellation of removal as well. So where Jose has a clear path right now to at least presenting an application to be able to stay in the United States, Ximena's case may end up depending on his case, the success of his case. Because if he wins his case, he becomes a permanent resident, and then she would have that qualifying relative to then request cancellation of removal. As far as the U visa is concerned, yeah, so we have concerns based on a number of different things, how the arrest was carried out, what was put in the arrest report that obviously wasn't true, and some things that happened right after, resulting in his resignation about the legality of this stop and then arrest. So if we, through this investigation process and in talking with the city of Dalton, if we come to understand that she was the victim of a false arrest, then that would qualify her for a U visa. And presumably, as part of understanding that they're somewhat at fault for this, the city of Dalton would have somebody sign a U visa certificate that would allow her to apply for a U visa. Now, because she's under 21, that means her dad and mom would also fall under the U visa, so the whole family would get that benefit. They would have a work permit for many, many years while they're waiting for the U visa to be approved, because U visas are backlogged like 15 to 20 years right now. So in the meantime, they'd have work authorization, a social security number, a driver's license, and they would be, out of the shadows and in the public doing the things that they've always wanted to do.
Abogado, disculpe, abogado, estamos en vivo ahora mismo en Noticias Univisión 34 Atlanta. ¿Podría resumir muy brevemente, nuevamente, por favor, en español, cuál es el paso a seguir y, sobre todo, cuánto tiempo esto podría dilatarse?
Sí, estamos investigando si podemos aplicar para la visa U. La visa U es una visa para personas que han sido víctimas de ciertos crímenes, y dentro de esos crímenes están listados arresto falso o arresto injusto. Entonces estamos haciendo la investigación y nos hace pensar que algo allí, por lo mismo de que el policía renunció y que había inconsistencias en el reporte de policía y lo que pasó con ella en el arresto. Si logramos conseguir comprobantes de que ella sí fue víctima en este caso de un arresto falso, ella sí va a poder aplicar para una visa U. Y vamos a tratar de hablar con la ciudad de Dalton y también con la policía para ver si ellos firman un certificado confirmando que fue víctima y sí ayudó en la investigación del caso. Si es así, no solamente Ximena, pero también su papá y su mamá estarían incluidos en la visa. Ahora, la cosa con la visa U es que la visa U está bien atrasada, como 15 a 20, si no más años de espera. Pero gracias a, una de las pocas cosas que hizo Biden durante su tiempo como presidente para los inmigrantes es, él empezó un programa donde la gente con visa U puede obtener un permiso de trabajo mientras está pendiente su visa U. Entonces, Ximena, su papá, su mamá, todos tendrían permiso de trabajo mientras esperaban la visa. Y la otra cosa con la visa U es, después de 3 años con la visa aprobada, se convierte en la residencia. Entonces, eso sería un buen fin a ese historial.
Ximena, me gustaría que me dijeras, tu vida se detuvo al momento de que entraste al centro de detención. ¿Qué has podido recuperar? ¿La universidad cómo va? ¿Cómo va tu vida actualmente?
Actualmente ha cambiado mucho. Ahora no puedo resumir mi vida como era antes. Como le estaba diciendo a otra reportera, que mi familia ahorita vive con poco miedo, porque sentimos que mucha gente está muy enojada y tienen muchos sentimientos con la situación que se está viendo en Dalton. Y entonces yo antes tenía una vida muy social, yo iba al gimnasio, iba a correr, y ahora siento que no puedo hacer eso porque siento que soy un poco alguien puede venir y decirme algo o Dios no quiera algo me pase.
¿Y la universidad has podido retomarla? ¿Los exámenes fueron recalendarizados?
Necesito hablar con el presidente de Dalton State College, pero ellos me habían dicho que cuando yo tuviera tiempo y ya estuviera relajada que podía hablar con ellos para retomar donde quedé.
Can you repeat that in English, please?
I was just gonna ask you.
Yes.
Like, have you been able to like get back to your classes at Dalton? Like, have you been able to enjoy life, even though I know you said it's been, you know,
I have
hard?
I have not been able to enjoy life. Like since I've gotten back, I haven't been out because I do live in fear now. So does my family. My life is completely different. My life was turned upside down. Like I mentioned, I used to run every single day, go to the gym, hang out with friends on a daily, and that's not something I can do anymore because I do think I am a target in my community for some people. And also, as for college, I have to speak to the president of Dalton State, and they will allow me to take my finals that I wasn't able to take because I got arrested. And I did have summer classes, but because of everything going on, I don't think I'm in the right headspace to start those summer classes. So I'll resume classes fall 2025.
Tengo una pregunta para el abogado Cook. Abogado Cook, durante muchos años hemos seguido su carrera como abogado de inmigración y especialmente abogado de jóvenes. El caso de Jessica Colotl causó un impacto enorme en esta comunidad. Yo fui una de las primeras reporteras que cubrió eso. Después usted tomó medidas legales para defender a aquellos estudiantes que no podían ir a las 5 universidades más prestigiosas del estado de Georgia. Ahora, a raíz del caso de Ximena, muchas personas nos han escrito a través de Prensa Atlanta Global si va a haber alguna medida a favor de estos estudiantes. ¿Está pensando usted en tomar alguna medida global para favorecer a estos estudiantes que son o que podrían eventualmente ser detenidos en las calles del estado?
La cosa con litigación en favor de estudiantes es que tienen un base en la ley. Hemos tenido muchas bases en la ley por las litigaciones que hemos tomado, por las demandas que hemos hecho sobre los años. Ahorita las cosas son más difíciles en la ley, en los cambios hechos por la legislatura aquí en Georgia y en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Pero siempre estamos buscando para ayudar a los estudiantes porque son el futuro de los Estados Unidos. Sin ese futuro, sin esos estudiantes, no tenemos un futuro bueno. Entonces seguiremos luchando por ellos y tratando de obtener por ellos la estatus legal para que puedan gozar su vida y vivir su vida en los Estados Unidos. Gracias.
Earlier, you guys came out and said Ximena did nothing illegal, she did nothing wrong. What would you say to people who say driving without a license is a factor of crime?
Driving without a license is, in Georgia, a misdemeanor. It shouldn't put you in jail. It shouldn't deprive you of your livelihood. It shouldn't deprive you of your schooling. Anybody else in Georgia who is caught without a license will be given a ticket and will go up in court and pay their $300 fine. They treat Ximena differently because she's undocumented. And honestly, she's as American as anybody here. Did you hear her speak? She's got a great Southern accent. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Because she grew up here. What is she supposed to do in Mexico? She is American in everything but that piece of paper. But only Congress can fix that. And so when you have politicians that won't fix the problem, but love glorifying the victims of it, you have to wonder, why are we electing these people if they're not going to fix one of the biggest problems that they think we have, when in fact this is not an unsolvable problem. This is really simple. It just requires some courage. I just wish we had politicians with courage.
And what's next now about some discrepancies in the police report? Can you just talk about some of those discrepancies?
Dustin would love to talk about that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is in the police report, the police officer attests that he saw the Dodge Ram pickup that Ximena was driving with the tag plate or the tag license or the tag numbers, and he saw it make an illegal right turn, stopped the car. We know that's not true because it wasn't her car that made an illegal right turn. So in other words, after he stopped her and detained her, arrested her, he then filled out the report with the facts that fit the narrative of the stop. So that's to us a concern, or at least a cause to look into this and see what really happened there.
So you have to prove he acted criminally in this situation.
We don't have to prove that. That's not our job. We're not prosecutors. But we have to investigate to see if that was in fact the case, and then we represent Ximena to the best of our ability. and we go the route of looking for the U visa. It would be upon the DA or the city of Dalton to look for any type of charges related to that.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier, but how does she qualify for the U visa, or how is that going to go about getting that?
Well, we're going to try. We're doing the investigation to see actually the facts surrounding the arrest, the events leading up to it, and if there's any patterns or practices that have been going on. If we can show that she was in fact the victim of an arrest that should never have occurred or a false arrest, and we get the cooperation of the city of Dalton, then we can apply for a U visa as having been the victim of a crime. So U visas are available to people who are victims of certain crimes, and there's a list, and false arrest is one of those crimes on the list. Now, I know we're not saying that this for sure occurred. We're not alleging that this officer is out there arresting people falsely, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't looking into this, because there are just some things that don't make sense there. And based on other things we've heard in the community, we're concerned that this may be something that's happening regularly.
With the specific officer, or just?
Possibly.
So where do things go now? Are you just going to continue building that case for the U visa?
Right, yeah, so we're waiting for the open records request to come back, and then once we get more information and do some more investigating and some more discussions with the city of Dalton, we'll see where that goes. But her immigration case has been moved from the rocket docket of detained individuals to just the regular docket, and because immigration courts are so backlogged, she probably won't have her next calendar hearing until sometime in 2026, 2027. And this is kind of another point that we talk about. Everybody can agree that if there are bad people in the United States that shouldn't be here, they should be deported. But right now, this administration is using all their resources to try and pick up people like Ximena and Jose, who are good people. And that's what that does, is it causes more of a backlog in the immigration court system, and it helps other people who are actually criminals evade the law, because these immigration officers are too busy transporting people for no license arrest from jail to jail across Georgia or across the United States. It's taking time that they could be using to actually make us safer by arresting people who are actual criminals.
Hello, I have a question for Ximena. It's Danny. Hi, Ximena. I'm Junior from Alondra. What do you think comes next for you in the future?
Hopefully that U visa and finishing up my career. I'm planning on majoring in finance and economics with a minor in marketing, hopefully getting married and helping people in the same situation as me.
Do you think that this situation has changed what you want to do in the future in the way that you obviously like?
I think it did change the way I see life, what I want to do in the future. I would be lying if I said this has made me want to be a lawyer, or I would hate my job. But I would want to start an organization to help people in the same shoes that I'm in right now. I like numbers, so I could probably do good with an organization and help those people.
Well, what does life look for you right now in the interim? You mentioned you're really not comfortable going out in public. What does your life look like until you get more finality here?
It looks like staying at home and just waiting to see what happens if I get that U visa, whatever happens with my dad. It's a waiting game right now.
When is her father going to be seen in court? I know you said that probably won't be seen for anything.
So, yeah, he's in the same situation where he was detained before. He's no longer detained. So his case will be removed from that speedy docket to the regular course docket. And, again, it's like 2026, 2027. His case file has been sent from Stewart to Atlanta, and he's not even in the system in Atlanta yet. So we don't have any idea when that calendar hearing will be set for. But given what we're seeing in other cases, I would say 2027 is probably a reasonable guess.
Can I ask you guys how many of the cases you guys are dealing with currently that may be similar to Ximena's case and her family's case, and then also what keeps you guys fighting for families that are currently going through things like this?
Yeah, well, so thanks to Ximena, we have a lot more people that we're helping. We've always had a very strong removal defense practice, and we have a ton of clients that are just like Ximena and her dad. We're seeing an uptick in that since the election, just by virtue of people like them being arrested and then being bond eligible and then being able to fight their case in court. What keeps me going is this is why I got into immigration law. I want to work with individuals where I can actually try and make a difference in their life and represent people who can't help themselves, because this is a complicated legal system. Immigration law is probably the second most complicated area of law behind tax law, and there's just so many nuances and intricacies. people couldn't possibly do this on their own. And so, you know, what I want to do is make a difference for as many people as I can before I die. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And when I see people like Ximena, I mean, especially during administrations like the Trump administration, where victories are harder to come by and everything is so depressing every day for people just like her, when we get these victories, when we get people like Ximena out on bond, we have to savor them and we have to enjoy them for as long as we can. And speaking of the bond should be as easy as Ximena's was, but we have a lot of judges who think that bond should be denied in a majority of the cases. So fortunately, we got a really reasonable and a good judge in her case, and Jose also had a good judge in his case, but not everybody's like that. We could see, for every Ximena, we could see 10 people who get other judges who get bond denied because she doesn't qualify for a U visa right this second, and she doesn't qualify for cancellation or removal right this second. And that's not the way it should be, but we always want to fight that. We always want to try and make a difference for these people.
¿Será que lo puede repetir en español?
Oh, that was a lot. Un resumen, ok. Sí, no me acuerdo la primera. Ok, sí, tenemos muchos casos similares al caso de Ximena. Mucha gente que realmente no tiene mal récord criminal, pero que cae en manos de inmigración porque andaban caminando en la calle o manejando sin licencia. Diario estamos consultando con mucha gente que está pasando por lo mismo. Y me animo para hacer esto. Bueno, para eso yo me hice abogado de inmigración. Yo viví un tiempo en México, aprendí el español y quería trabajar con mi gente, con mis paisanos, la gente que amo y hacer una diferencia en la vida de esas personas. Y la verdad es que el sistema de inmigración es muy complicado. Y sin ayuda de un abogado, la probabilidad de poder ganar un caso, así como el caso de Ximena, baja muchísimo. Entonces yo quiero hacer una diferencia en la vida de las personas, ayudándoles a hacer algo que ellos no pueden hacer por sí mismos. Y por eso yo y también el abogado Charles nos hicimos abogados para ayudar a gente exactamente como Ximena.
Abogado, una última pregunta. ¿Por qué usted considera que la fianza de Ximena fue tan pequeña? ¿Qué se consideró en ese caso?
Bueno, en el caso de Ximena, siempre cuando se trate de una fianza en la Corte de Inmigración, los jueces quieren ver que una persona no se va a huir y no es peligroso para la comunidad. Y en el caso de Ximena, ni tenía cargos pendientes, nunca ni siquiera ha hablado mal con sus papás, es un ángel, ¿verdad? Entonces, no era secreto de que no era peligrosa ella para la comunidad. La única cosa es que ella no tenía aplicación pendiente con inmigración, y entonces tal vez los jueces a veces piensan que las personas se van a huir si piensan que van a perder su caso. Pero la juez que nos tocó, ella tiene la opinión de que si una persona presenta peligro para la comunidad, eso no se puede combatir con una fianza alta. Pero si tal vez hay opinión de que una persona se va a huir, si lo sueltan, eso sí se puede como mitigar con una fianza alta. Pero en el caso de ella, la juez dijo, ¿a dónde va a ir ella? Ella es una joven de 19 años, quiere vivir con sus papás, ahí están sus papás, no es que se va a ir a Hollywood a estar paseando un rato, ella siempre iba a presentarse a la corte. Entonces, la juez que nos tocó, una juez muy justa, muy razonable, y la verdad es que, para ser honesto, yo como mal abogado pedí una fianza un poco más alta de lo que nos dio. Yo le dije que ella solamente quería ganarle a su papá, quien pagó una fianza de $7,500, y él dijo, voy a hacer un poco mejor que eso, le voy a dar lo mínimo. Entonces yo dije, ok, no voy a discutir eso. Entonces así pasó con ella.
Mr. Baxter, I spoke with another immigration attorney earlier today, Joshua McCall. He wants to know if the U-Visa was signed, and if so, can you talk a little bit
No,
about
yeah, we're not anywhere near that yet. We're still investigating that. So the U-Visa certificate has not been signed. We haven't even asked for it to be signed until we get more information, because until there's more indications that there was something untoward or possibly illegal that happened there, we can't even request that U-Visa. So we're still a ways from that.
Are you dealing with other ethnicities like Asians, Middle Eastern, Europeans?
We have reports of other incidents targeting Latinos, but we're not prepared to discuss those yet. We will be bringing those to the attention of the city of Dalton, which honestly I'm sure they're probably aware of at this point. Once we get our open records request, we'll have a lot more information that we'll approach the city attorney with and talk to them about, and then see what becomes available to Ximena at that point. I will tell you, these things don't happen in isolation, and we've seen it for decades here in Georgia. There's a lot of wonderful police officers who go out of their way to make sure everything is proper, and there's always a bad egg somewhere. And so we have to make sure we get rid of the bad eggs and keep the good officers that are protecting our community justly.
Ximena, can you talk a little bit about the response from your community and your friends to you coming home?
Yes, it was overwhelmingly emotional. I felt very loved, very cared for. I felt seen and supported by my community, and not just my community, but thousands of people across the United States with their kind messages and people going out of their way to show their support towards me.
Cuando te agarraron la semana posterior que la policía de Dalton dio a conocer que había sido un error, muchas personas en las redes sociales que empatizaron con tu caso recomendaban que interpusieran una demanda contra la policía de Dalton. ¿Tu familia, tú están valorando esta opción de interponer una demanda contra ellos?
Ahorita no sabemos, eso es algo que tenemos que hablar con mi abogado.
What do you say to the people who say, even though you're just a college student, that you were still driving without a license?
I think that they need to realize that I didn't commit a crime. I broke a civil law, and it's completely different than a criminal. So I don't think I should have been treated the way I was treated, taken to prison with people who actually committed crimes. I think there could have been a different way for that.
Speak about putting your life on pause right now. Just how kind of speak to how do you feel about having to wait to go back to school, having to wait to just make appearances outside. How do you feel?
It makes me feel like I'm in a really small room and can't move anywhere. I feel like my life has been on pause these past couple of days and will continue to be on pause until there's further steps. So it just feels really hard knowing that I can't really do anything until there's further steps.
Can I ask how many books your age you met Esther? If there were books that you related to in the current stage that you
Yeah.
are in life?
Same age, I think my whole friend group in there were about 21, 22, and they were also treated very unjust. Their cases are very sad as well. So there's a lot of stories like mine in there.
Ximena, how do you feel emotionally, like físicamente, emocionalmente? Ya sé que estar en una centro de detención es muy espantoso con tu edad.
I think the perfect word is drained. There's a lot that I've been through, a lot of emotional trauma, a lot of stuff that I wouldn't wish on anybody, especially somebody my age. I just feel very drained, like I'm in a period in life that I'm on pause. So it feels very difficult and it's hard. My faith and my family. I know my parents came here with the dream to give me and my sisters a better future, and that's exactly what they achieved. And unfortunately, we are in the situation we are right now. But knowing that my parents moved from another country with nothing in their pockets and gave me the life they so much wanted for themselves keeps me going, because they crossed a little river with me to be able to give me the life I have. So this little, something that it's not little, but compared to what they've been through, is something small. Also my faith. I know God has a plan for me. He has plans to prosper me and not to harm me. So I know that this is a moment in life that is going to build me up to be a better person and just rocking me up to the sky. And like my dad always tells me, I'm in the country where the sky is the limit. So this is not going to define who I am or my future. And hopefully I'm able to stay here in the United States and I'll define what my dad says, that sky is the limit, and do big things.
Can you repeat that in Spanish again?
Yes. What was the question again? Oh. Lo que me hace fuerte es mi familia y también mi fe. Mis papás literalmente cruzaron montes y ríos para poder llegar aquí, y si ellos pudieron hacer eso y traerme aquí y darme una vida genial que ellos querían de jóvenes. Este momento que yo estoy pasando no va a definir la persona que soy ni mis metas que tengo en la vida. También Dios es mi fortaleza porque yo sé que Él tiene planes para prosperarme y no para dañarme. Entonces, sabiendo que Él tiene un plan para mí y que todo ojalá me salga bien. Y si me puedo quedar aquí en Estados Unidos, como dice mi papá, el cielo es el límite. Entonces, espero que me quede aquí y nada más comprobar ese dicho de mi papá, que el cielo es el límite y cumplir todas mis metas de la vida. Con Dios todo es posible.
Gracias a todos. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.